Today we're talking about the Fara 83 and basically how I was wrong about it. I thought it had too much recoil. I thought it didn't have enough damage. Well, after the buffs, it turns out it is a beauty of a weapon. And I'm going to talk about the Fara's strengths and weaknesses as I play out some gameplay from Wednesday's stream. But first, let's take a look at the class setup that I did use on Wednesday and is basically the best one that you can use at the moment if you're going to use the Fara as a long-range weapon. So first we have the GRU suppressor as the muzzle. That's probably no surprise to many of you. We obviously get the sound suppression. Very importantly, the vertical recoil control. We get the bullet velocity and damage range. That comes at the cost of some ADS time, but we're okay with that. So for the barrel, we have the 18.7-inch Spetsnaz RPK barrel. This is the barrel that essentially makes the Fara a true long-range weapon. So we get bullet velocity, vertical and horizontal recoil control, and effective damage range. This comes at the cost of mobility, so you will feel a little bit sluggish. As you can see, this reduces the ADS time, sprinting move speed, hipfire accuracy, and aim walking movement speed. But for a long-range build, you're always going to lose a bit of mobility. For the optic, there's no surprises here. We've gone for the axial arms 3x optic. Then for the ammunition, we've got the 60 rounds. This will feel a little bit sluggish if you're used to using the 45 round mags in the SMG builds for the Fara. But for Warzone, if we want to bite through that armor, we need 60 rounds ideally. Then lastly, for the rear grip, we've got the GRU elastic wrap. Now this tries to combat some of the negatives of the big barrel and muzzle that we do have, which reduce the aiming down sight time. So obviously this does improve that, along with some flinch resistance and aiming stability, which is great. We do lose a bit of sprint to fire time, which isn't great, and ADS firing moving speed, but since again we're using it as a long range option, it's no big deal. Now let's talk about what makes this weapon so good. I'm gonna start with recoil. You're gonna see in these clips there's hardly any recoil, and if you look at the attachments, we haven't gone overboard with trying to reduce it. It's naturally good at handling. Now this is particularly great for controller players, as usually when there's a meta weapon out there, like I'm thinking about the AMAX here, it's kind of hard to control unless you're on PC or you're particularly good at controlling recoil patterns on analog. You don't have to put a lot of work into learning the recoil pattern and trying to drag down on your thumbstick or anything like that. It's pretty intuitive and easy to use. This was actually a major complaint of mine in the past when the Fara first came out. I thought, considering its damage, which isn't huge, it was way too hard to hit people over, say, 30 meters. That's completely changed now. We finally got a Cold War AR, which can basically rise above the rest, particularly modern warfare weapons. Okay, another advantage of this long-range Fara setup is its damage. Okay, it's not going to hit as hard as the AMAX in its peak or anything like that. It's pretty comparable to many weapons, but if you consider its recoil control, its damage is actually fantastic. If we look at comparable recoil patterns, say like the Kilo or M13, you're basically shooting peas at people, you're not going to take them down. That's not the case with the Fara. Its TTK is fantastic, and I really think you'll notice it. So we've got great recoil control, we've got great damage, so it's very easy to use and user-friendly for beginners and experts alike, but there is one other advantage of the Fara which I love, and that's its mobility. Cold War assault rifles were kind of freakish on Warzone for a long time because of their mobility. If you remember, we had the two assault rifles set up as the meta for a long time. So we had, for example, the Far, basically accompanied by any assault rifle in the game, so AMAX Far was a big one, or using a Kar 98, and then the Far is kind of an SMG, because the mobility on Cold War assault rifles, like I say, was insane. It did get nerfed. Okay, it did get nerfed, but bear with me, the Fara is still going to outcompete many assault rifles in mobility. This is particularly great at those medium range battles where you're both ADSing each other and you're kind of trying to strafe side to side and get a little bit of an advantage like that. This weapon is great for that. It can also compete with SMGs, but obviously not massively because the meta at the minute is very good and balanced, so SMGs will dominate most of the time if they hit their shots, but it's that bit, if they hit their shots. If they miss a couple, you're still going to take them down with this, which is why I love it. Obviously in the clips in the background here, I did accompany the Fara with one of my favourite weapons at the minute, the nail gun. So you didn't get to see the Fara taking on many SMGs, but believe me, it can do, and that's why we did see Fara SMG builds being the meta not so long ago. Alright, I've been banging on about the Fara for long enough now. I've shown you a great class setup, I've shown you quite an easy win with the Fara in the background here. I'm gonna shut up and let you go. If you did enjoy the video, please give it a like, and if you haven't already, subscribe for more Warzone videos, shorts, and streams. Bye for now.